Hello, and welcome to Spurs Kings TV. It is Marlon, the host, and my fellow Ashmatic. Yes, Spain are into the Europa League final, the Euro final. How you doing, Ash?
Bro, what a game, man. Big up to everyone in the chat and people watching live or people watching the playback. Big yourselves up. Make sure you do like, share, and subscribe, all those good things as well, man. Big up to everyone doing their thing. We do appreciate your support each and every time. But yeah, man, that Spain game, hey, listen, semi-final, that was decent. Everyone's talking about that 16-year-old and what a goal it was. But hey, almost touches. Cheeky. What a
Mate,
baller.
when it was linked that he was like worth 60 million, I was like, when I watched him for Leipzig, I was like, really? He's okay. But actually seeing him in a Spanish shirt and around better players, he is definitely worth that money. Whether Spurs would want to pull that one out of the bag, I don't know. But what can I say?
Boy, you never know, man. But yeah, we move, man. We move.
But anyway, let's get back to Spurs. Spurs are causing us headache, causing us issues. You know what will end up happening, innit? We won't sign anybody that's been at the Euros, and they've just literally longed it out.
Mad. Hey, can you imagine? Listen, the scenes. Boy, I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm very slow to react to everything and anything, so that's where I'm at the moment.
Anyway, let's bring out our guest. One of our guests was just having some technical issues, but let's bring out the main man himself. Everybody knows who he is. He's the king of YouTube. He's even come over to us tonight, even though he's been doing a watch along. He's probably a bit tired, but he's come to help us out tonight, and that is Dave, Irish Hotspur. Are you well, my friend?
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it, guys. Good to be back. It's been a long time. Ashmatic has asked me before this. I just haven't been able to get on. So I do apologize, and it's long overdue, and it's good to be back. I really enjoy having chats with you guys and, your channel predictions and stuff like that. And Ash on me or Tottenham TV beforehand. So it's a match made in heaven. I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
And hopefully we'll bring out our next guest. Daniel, first of all, can you hear us?
Yeah, I've had to switch to my phone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Oh, first of all,
right.
welcome to Spurs Kings TV, making your debut. First thing we always ask our guests, how are you doing?
No, I'm good, mate. Just enjoyed the game. Yeah. How are you guys? Nice to meet you in person. I've been following the show for a while, so yeah, it's great to be on. Thanks for the invite.
No problem at all. So Ash,
yes,
let's get straight into this, right? So the first person I want to bring up, and this is going to be really weird because usually we talk about incomings, right? But because of all our signings recently, I thought I'd start off with someone who's been linked away, right? And that's Mikey Moore. And the reason why I'm starting with Mikey Moore is because if you look at the signings we've made recently, right, we've gone for youth, but Mikey Moore has had an offer, apparently so, from Manchester City and Manchester United. What? And Spurs can't offer him a contract. Or Spurs have offered him a contract, but obviously he can't sign it until he's 17, I believe. So he can't officially sign anything until he's 17. If he was to leave, would this be a massive statement?
Oh my days! If he was to leave, this would be chaotic, let alone a massive statement. I think people would be getting crazy. Like, he's one of our best future prospects from our academy at the moment, and we did well to keep hold of him and to get that contract signed over in the first place. I remember there was a big hoo-ha about we're not, helping our development or developing our youngsters at the moment. So we need to get our youngsters on contracts from early and make them get money, because we lost players already in the thanks of Madueke, who's gone to Chelsea, who was at PSV at the time. He left our place. We lost Edwards, obviously, as well. And we're starting to see a lot of players move out, and we're not getting money from some of these talents. Now, we're saying, we want to keep hold of some of these youngsters, and we want to kind of, blood them in. Do you know what I'm saying? So if he was to go to any other club and then flourish again, I think the fans will be absolutely livid because he's meant to be. The fact that he's English as well, like that doesn't bode well with a lot of fans. So for me, I think if he was to go to a Manchester United to a Man City, we know they're bigger clubs, but like, bro, like, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? It's like, where is our ambition? Where are we at as a club? I don't understand. So for me personally, I just think, yeah, this can't happen. We need to sort something out where we can encourage him and show him a pathway, like show him that he's going to get into the team. I think last season they might have had a whiff of other clubs sniffing around. I think Dortmund were coming around and they said,
Yeah.
you know what? Fling him in the Man City, young, real quick. So he must have got like a few minutes to say, look, we're playing you, bro. Look, don't leave us. So I'm thinking, like, yeah, that's what it is. I think they're really scared, but they also realize his potential and his talent, and they say, look, there is minutes for you here. We're going to be in more competitions like Europa League, etc. And yeah, man, I think that's what they're trying to show him is, look, we've got other youngsters in that are a similar age to you as well, and like, you know, a few age mates they can play around in the nursery. So they're hoping that could work well. So yeah, man, that's what it is.
Dave, let me bring you in on it. Yeah, so he officially turns, like as Paul Connor said, he thinks he'll sign a contract in a few weeks' time because he basically turned 17 on the 11th of August. Yeah. So that's D-Day for him. That's when he can finally sign a contract. Do you think the rumours suddenly come out of nowhere, or do you think actually there is something behind this that Pep has probably seen something in Mikey Moore to go, actually, I want to bring him to Man City?
Look, Mikey Moore wasn't the only one they were sniffing at. They were sniffing at Tyrese Hall as well. You know, you know, for me, there's a lot of interest in Mikey Moore. There always has been. You know, before we got him to sign on to the, I think it's schoolboy forms he's on now. You know, there was Dortmund, there was Real Madrid, all circling. Tottenham done a great job to be able to get this guy to commit. And one of the big reasons why was young Callum Olasesi, who also is a fantastic player. He's best friends with him. And he, you know, he's one of the reasons why he signed on the dotted line. But I think what many people maybe miss beyond all of this is the kid's a Spurs fan. Mikey Moore's a Spurs fan. Why would he want to go and sign on the dotted line elsewhere when he has the opportunity to sign for his first professional contracts for his boyhood football club? And I think all that was swinging his favour. And there is already an offer on the table that technically he agreed to when he signed his schoolboy forms. But because he can't sign them until the 11th of August, that's where this window comes in for teams to be able to come in and try and offer him, you know, probably more financial incentives and stuff like that. And Ash is right. Tottenham got a sniff of this last year. When he went to sign on the schoolboy forms to take him up to this senior level, there was a lot of interest in him. That wasn't going anywhere. And not only that, he shone on the stage for the under-17s for England over the course of this summer, which brings a lot more attention to him. So there's going to be a lot of big clubs in for this guy, but I think he's already given Tottenham his word that he's going to sign on the dotted line. And he's a Spurs fan, and to be honest with you, I don't see him going anywhere. I'll be very surprised if he left Tottenham. I think if he did leave Tottenham, I think it kicks off probably a bad precedent, and who else follows. But for me, you know, even if he does sign on the dotted line and he does sign a long-term contract, you have to give the kid playing time. You're going to have to, because there's so much interest in the guy and because of the talent he possesses. There's still going to be a lot of pressure on Spurs to develop this kid, and hopefully that the few games that and the training that they had him in with the first team last season, hopefully they've shown him that there is a pathway, there is a plan here for him, and you know, that he commits to signing on the dotted line, and I think he will. I don't think we've anything to worry about when it comes to this kid.
Dan, let me bring you into this conversation. So what do Spurs have to convince Mikey Moore that he has a future at this club and he will get minutes on the pitch and there is a pathway for him? Because at the moment, if we're looking at it, there's been 4 different kinds of managers. There's been quite a few players that have left the club and gone on to make it elsewhere. Probably not at the level that they want to, but, you know, we look at Madueke for our talking purposes, had to go away and come back, and he's now at Chelsea. So what can we show Mikey Moore now going forward? I know we've signed Archie Gray and Bergvall as well for that midfield, right? You know, you've had only a few youngsters make their first team debut last year. Only a few, even though we was expecting a lot more from Ange. But what can Spurs right now show Mikey Moore? Actually, this is your future. This is the place to stay.
Okay, so to my knowledge, he's on contract till 2026. So, is that right, everyone? I think that's correct. I think we don't have to sell him. Clock on the Zoom a bit. Can we get it?
Dan, your mic is sounding crazy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's sounding crackly. I don't know if it's one of your headphones that have gone off, but it just sounds like.
I'm not having much joy
Yeah.
today.
He's just speaker wrestling against something.
Trying to help you. Like, sounds like Kane. Remember when Kane had no voice?
Yeah.
He pressed the button there.
Is this any better?
No, it's still the same. It's crackly. It's crackly.
Okay, let me just switch off the earphone and see if that works.
What Dan was saying there though about the contract to 2026, that I believe that is the commitment that he made to his first senior contract, and that's why it's out there until 2026. But technically, Spurs can offer him longer term when he signs if they want to renegotiate that.
Right. Can't hear you, Dan. Yeah, no, I can't hear you.
Why Dan's sorting out his issues, but when he can hear us, we'll bring him back in. But yeah, as I'll bring you in, Ash, onto it as well. What do you reckon Spurs could do? Obviously, we need to give him minutes, but will he get the minutes? Because there's a lot of pressure. You know, everyone's saying we've got Europa League, we've got the Cup, we've got FA Cup, we've got League Cup games. But are these not competitions that we're trying to win?
Yeah, so it's that tricky situation where you're hoping at the level of Europa, when we're going into those group games, we're playing teams that it's a competitive game at the same time, but in those group games, they're not going to be playing, you know, the top tier Europa teams. They're more likely to be later on in the stages in the knockout rounds, etc. So I'm hoping Mikey Moore gets his minutes and enough minutes as well to show his worth, where he can be taken seriously and the manager can trust him, and then we can embed him in, like, you know, pretty much league games, because that's where we want to see him in the Premier League, don't we?
This was my question, because with the Europa League, like, I know people sit there and go, we're not playing top caliber teams, but personally, I think we will be, and I think that's going to be the problem, because if we can't, let's be honest, like, Mura is fresh in the mind. If they couldn't even turn up for Mura, who are we to not, you know, taking the piss and basically I will never forgive. I will never forgive them. And then you got to take Zagreb as well. People thought that would be a walkover, and that had players like Harry Kane still playing then. So who are we to be sitting there going, I know everyone thinks we're a Champions League team, but actually some of these clubs, let's take Leverkusen last year, right? Leverkusen ended up going the whole season unbeaten apart from that last final game. So we could end up getting a Leverkusen in the Europa League that we don't know about. So where are these minutes going to come from?
No, that's a good question, man. I honestly think that the earlier stages, in theory, like, that's when we tested in the Europa Conference League. We had Brian Hill was playing that in those competitions, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And then we had who else was on the other wing? Brian Hill. I think maybe Solomon might have been, not Solomon, it was before Solomon. It was Brian Hill and Sessegnon it was. And I think Kane as well. Kane was up front. So like a mixture of the first team and fringe players or second team players, or a lot of our bench got rotated home and away as well. Because I remember seeing Brian Hill home and away. Because I remember it was the early stages of the Conference League games where he played. So I'm expecting the same with Mikey Moore. If he's going to play, it's a good question. Where is he going to play? Because I'd imagine that he'd play maybe on the wing, and sometimes, or we might play him as an advanced 8, maybe attacking mid, that kind of role. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who we play him alongside. If we play him with the other youngsters and see how it goes, or do we put him with more senior players to, you know, so it's not just too much of a drop off? Because sometimes when you put too many young players all at once, it doesn't quite, you know, solidify. It doesn't quite work. It's not quite fluid. So you need a kind of some of the experienced lads in there with the youngsters. So it'll be interesting to see where they place him in that team and where they think his best position is moving forward, and how they kind of develop him, so to speak. But you're right. I mean, these competitions we need to be going for. If looking at the League Cup last season, when we tried to rotate, everyone lost their mind. They're like, brother, you're right, Edge. Remember, Edge was fresh at the job. What are you doing? We're trying to win cups here. This is our only chance. And we know it's your first season, but we don't care. Yeah. And everyone was just getting crazy. I remember it was.
Can I just come in on that as well, just quickly? Yep. Look, there has been a bad precedent set at Spurs over the years, and we've sort of, because of our squad, and we all know they haven't been good enough. I've been on, ever since I first started YouTube, a lot of them players I went at, and thank God a lot of them are gone because, you know, they're absolutely, they didn't care about Tottenham Hotspur, you know, at all. They didn't have Tottenham in their best interest. They were just here for a good payday and a good piss up, you know, and it's almost we've been led to believe that you have to play your first team in every single game, even against the shit teams in the cup, just to get over the line, and it shouldn't be that way. You know, in order for us to compete, we need to have a squad of the 25 that gets registered, plus 3 or 4 in the under-21s to make a squad of 30. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for players over the course of the season. You're not going to get every first 11 player to play 50 games to try and get over the line and win one cup competition. You have to rely on your squad, and this is something that Ange Postecoglou is slowly starting to do. The League Cup game that he played against Fulham, Perisic, Højbjerg's on his way out the door. Looks like Skip's on his way out the door. Dyer's gone. Sanchez is gone. People like that. A lot of them players are gone. He knows he can't rely on them to come in and do a job in them games. And that's why we're signing, you know, we're hoping to put a squad together. And what you do is, the likes of Dragusin you can put out there and be confident he's going to be trying to nail down his spot. And there's other players out there, you know, one of Papamata, Basuma, Bentancur, Madison, who miss out on the Premier League or the first 11. You put them out there. And what happens is you've actually got good, solid professionals who want to perform and try and get in the first 11 rather than guys who just accepted that they're a backup role. And then you can put your youngsters in and around there. The likes of the Pacos, the Ferreira game, the likes of the NS Moore game. We had Doherty in the back line, Davies in the back line, Dyer, Sanchez, guys who can't progress the ball out at all. You know, you go into midfield, Harry Winks and that, they're gone. You know, a lot of these players are gone. And for me, I think we just have to sort of get behind him, man. I trust him and understand that in cup games, he's going to have to make changes. Going out across Europe, you pick and choose your battles. You go and play a better team, you bring a better squad. You go and play a crapper team, you bring out your backups to fill up the 11, bring youngsters in off the bench, and that's where they're going to get their game time. But we have to start to do this. We're the only teams across world football that don't give any youngsters an opportunity to a large degree. You go through most Premier League teams last year, even Sheffield United. They returned to their academy at some point and gave their youngsters opportunities. At Tottenham Hotspur, we were afraid to give them the opportunity. I've always argued, if some of them guys who people tell me are supposed to be the utmost professional international footballers ain't doing the job, why haven't we turned to the kids or turned to do something different than what we've done in years gone by and actually give them the opportunity? And I think that's what Andrew's here to do.
What if though, and Dan, you can answer this, what if Man City pull up on the first round of the League Cup? What do you do with Mikey Moore and the youngsters then? Do you play them? Check, Mike, 1, 2. Yo, inside. Ugh, I don't think you can hear me. Dan, hello.
I think you can hear us. We can hear us because he's been listening. This is Mike.
Yeah. Mike, oh man, I felt bad for him. I thought, oh man, you know what? As well, I've got a mic here as well. Look, I sent it to him in a post, but and this one's kind of broken as well.
Let me just check if his mic come back on. No, his mic's gone. Yeah. So looking at it. Ash, I can answer that question. If we got a Man City in the first round of the League Cup, right, I'd probably play him. I'd risk it.
I respect it.
Because let's be honest, when you come up against a team like Manchester City, you can kind of go, you know what, third round of the League Cup, the likelihood is that they're going to be playing most of their youth team players. And we're looking at going, we're likely to go out against City. That's the time to do it. That is the time. That is the time to do it. But if you're looking at it, if we got a Luton or an Ipswich or even, you know, a Doncaster or, you know, someone like Leighton Orient, that's when I'll start going, no, because now you have a chance. It's Gareth Southgate's dream, isn't it? If you've got an easy pathway to the final, let's play your best team. The only team that I would certainly worry about in the sense of in the League Cup that would go out to would be City. But if it was Arsenal or Manchester United or Liverpool, for talking purposes, Liverpool to a certain extent, it depends. I'll give you that answer once I've seen Liverpool play. But the rest of them, I want my first team out there. I agree with Dave. It's a mix of the first team. I want 7 or 8, but I want 4 of them, maybe 4 of the youngsters to play in certain positions that are not going to be key, right? Because like if you look at the Fulham game last year, Van de Ven was the only first team player that played.
Yeah.
You know, when we look at it in the long term of things, and we shouldn't be doing that. We should be mixing and matching. And I think Paul Connor actually made a great point earlier where he goes, and I'll ask you guys the question. Why can't we play more of the youngsters when we play the lower ranked teams? When we, you know, if Andrew goes there and goes, you know, make sure you're 2-3-0 up in the first hour, they come off.
I think personally, because it's out the level on the drop off, and I don't know if it's coming down to the trust of the manager. If he looks at them and thinks, have they got the minerals? Have they got that? They might have the ability in some cases. They might have some of the attributes, but when you're being pressed at a certain level, how do you react under that pressure? Are you going to be bullied off the ball physical? Is the manager going to stick 2 men on the youngster and say, look, what I need you to do is put your shoulder on them, just put your weight, or you know, just put a nasty one on them. As soon as he gets that touch, or you need to put a nasty one on them, will that affect the youngster's mentality? Is the manager trying to protect some of the players coming in? Being that it was Ange's first season as well, like maybe he was just trying to test the waters. You know, when you're not too sure of the league, you're not too sure how things are. Remember, he learned a lot against Man City when the fans were just screaming, throw the game, and everyone's wearing blue tops and stuff, and he saw everything. Because he was like, it's one thing like hearing it on social media, but then seeing it real live in the flesh, he really experienced like what life is being a Tottenham manager. Do you know what I'm saying? Even down to his tactics when he learned that, you know, he's playing a 2-3-5 in possession, and then all of a sudden, you know, Wolves come to our ground and they do the double on us, you know, home and away. So he would have learned a lot in that first season, and he would have been thinking, right, you know what, I want to play these youngsters, but you know, I need to kind of suss the league out. I need to suss players out. And at the first, well, a lot of the games, he didn't really say much. He looked like he was just studying, just watching. How we, like, in adversity, how does the team react when they're 1-0 down? Do we have leaders? Do the players like buckle under pressure? Do we divert away from the tactics or the tactical instruction that he said before the game? Because it was one thing I noticed: the first half and the second half was night and day. Do you know what I'm saying? Every time we came in at half time, it sounded like he gave a rollicking. And so then he was learning about the players, the senior players, a lot more so maybe than the youngsters. And then maybe he was so fixated and trying to fix the senior team, he didn't know what to do with the youngsters, bringing them in. I don't know. I'm just guessing, innit? That's my take on it, because that's sometimes what you have as a coach when you're trying to give in tactical information, instructions. Yeah. And he did say, I'm not trying to give them too much and overload them, but I want to see characters. I want to see what they're like under pressure. Are they passing backwards when they know I hate passing backwards?
Yeah. No, so Irish, I want to ask you this one, because I've seen Chris mention this before and when he's spoken on his channel as well. And I kind of agree with it, but I technically don't agree with it at the same time. Basically, in my opinion, they don't play if they're not ready yet. It's not about technique that's required. There's a lot more parameters to take into consideration. But my question is to you and us is, when do you know they're ready? How did we know Harry Kane was ready to come in the first team? How does any youth team play? Like, we're not talking Messi here. We are talking about certain players coming in and being able to do a job. If they're never put in that environment, how do we ever know?
Well, that's the thing. Look, this is one of my biggest bugbears at Tottenham. We all sit here and, we don't want to give our youngsters an opportunity, but we sit here and, celebrate and pop party poppers when we fucking sign the likes of Bergvall and, Archie Gray, who some of our academy products are older than them. Some of them are 19. These guys are only 18 years of age. So I don't quite get it. If you're going to be a big advocate of Bergvall and Archie Gray, be a big advocate of some of the younger guys you've got. Look, the thing is as well, we're not talking about just an average group of players. We're talking about a group of players. Some of them have under 17s, under 18s, and under 21 success. They've replicated it through 3 different age groups. So they're clearly some of the best across the UK in that age group. We've got some special talent there. And I think it's about time we recognize it. In terms of how do we get them into the first team, look, Ange Postecoglou has already had a lot of them up training with them last year. Gunter was up training with the carry-out times. Tyrese Hall was up there. Donnelly was up there. Dorrington was up there. If people go back and look what Ange Postecoglou actually said on these guys, one thing everyone's concerned about, will the level drop? but people ain't listening to Ange. He said it on Donnelly, on Dorrington. When these guys come up and train with the first team, the levels don't drop. He name-checked them as being good talents. I put out a video there a couple of weeks ago and even got the screenshot of the article with his quotes to prove what I'm saying. You know, and people forget, Tottenham have all these guys tied down to long-term contracts. If they're tied down to long-term contracts, and when they brought Ange Postecoglou in here to play on the front foot football, and they need homegrown club-trained players to come through to be able to fill out that side, so we're not spunking 50 million up the wall on Brendan Johnson and people like that, then you have to turn to your academy. And there's a clear plan that I do think eventually turn to the academy. I think last year, Ange Postecoglou was all about getting his feet in under the table, like Ash said, sorting out the first team, who's with me, who's not, who can play my system, who can't. But he did have a lot of them youngsters up training with them in the under-20, with the senior team last year. And I think that's in with a view of filling out his squad this year. Postecoglou's not naive to know that Tottenham are going to go out this summer transfer window and sign in 2 players for every position. It's not going to happen. We're going to be left short in areas. And in them areas is where Postecoglou has to turn to the academy, to some of these under-21s. And that's how you get them in. No one's sitting here saying put them out there the first day of the season. Yeah. But people forget, we carry so many injuries at Tottenham. And it's not just last season. It happened under Conte. It happened under Jose. And because we've always had thin, bare squads in terms of talent, when they turn to the rest of the squad guys, everything falls off. Instead of turning to them, we should be turning to some of the academy guys and giving them an opportunity. Look at Lewis Miley at Newcastle. Injury crisis occurred. Put him in there. Look at the reputation and how quick the kid took to the Premier League. Look at the Liverpool youngsters, how far they got them in the cup competitions and stuff like that with their injuries. We have to be able to rely on our academy to do the same. And it just takes a manager to come in here with a bit of balls and a bit of bottle to do it. When Pochettino came in here, we had a large squad and a lot of players that he didn't like. He fucked them off. He turned to the academy and it bought Postecoglou time, and it also set us on a new trajectory. Ange Postecoglou is coming in a similar sort of situation when we had a lot of players, some that are just not doing anything for the club. He has to get rid of them, and he's probably going to turn to the academy to try and push this forward.
Yeah, I think as well, like if you remember what Pochettino came in and did, he trusted a lot of youngsters when he came in. I know it was a different time. We were at a different level as well. We were dropping further back. And so I think he had more time to kind of bed those youngsters in. But one thing I will say about the youngsters is they are fearless. They've got less fear, less baggage of previous regimes or previous failures, etc. I think that's the reason why Poch was able to get so much out of that particular Spurs team at the time. And I think the youngsters did have quality, but at the same time, he was able to blend that youth with a little bit of experience. But all in all, it was like a new team that he put together. And I just think when you've got young players, they're more likely to listen rather than players that are slightly older. They might talk back and chat back, whatnot. So I'm not saying that I'm not saying Postecoglou is going to have the same kind of situation where, you know, he's going to have a bunch of youngsters. He's going to get them firing. They're going to be fearless and we're going to be pushing up the pitch. But I can see where it can work. I can see Dave's point. Like if the level doesn't drop, there should be no excuse.
No, and the one bit I kind of didn't get last year was when Udogie got injured and everyone was asking Van der Ven to play left back. I don't want to see Emerson Rowe play left back. I don't want to see anyone play. I don't want to see Ben Davies play left back. If there's a left back in the academy, throw him in like Miley. Look, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But let's be honest, as fans, if that would have happened in that situation when Udogie got injured and we had no left back and he went, you know what, we're going for a bad run. You know what, you've got no fear at all. Just go in there and just do your job. That's all we just want a left back out there. I'm telling you now, Spurs fans wouldn't have got on his back. Yep. Everyone would have been like, okay, it is what it is. And we'd have seen straight away if he was going to, if that left back, whoever it may be from that academy at the time, was going to go on to, you know, they could have shown that they were better in a men's team than they are in the academy. You know, you get players like this sometimes. And I think that was the opportunity for Ange to do it. But he didn't, and he chose to go with the tried and tested. And then even then we were asking Van der Ven to play left back because we had Dragic. He wouldn't do it until the last 2 games. And then we saw what Van der Ven can do at left back, even though he was doing it for Holland. So it's mistakes like that where I'm like, you know, where a youth team player can come in. You don't need to play a first team at left back. If you don't have one, that's where you go to the academy.
To be fair, just on that, Marlon, at left back, we're not exactly stuck in the academy.
Yeah.
You know, we had some guy playing there. What was his name? I can't remember now. But he wasn't great, you know, at left back. And to be fair, Ashley Phillips was already sent out on loan, but he kept Dorrington around. Dorrington pulled up his hamstring after Ashley Phillips was sent out on loan. If he didn't have his hamstring injury, potentially you may have seen him step in there. And just the fact that Dorrington wasn't there is maybe why he ended up going with Emerson, because it's all he actually had left available to him.
Yeah. Dan, can you hear us and can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Good.
Better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Right,
So our question for you is, right, when will the academy, when is the best time for the academy players to get first team experience with us?
Well, there's going to be plenty of games this season, the Europa League, the Cup games. But as Ashmatic said, just hold on 1 second. Hold on. Sorry, it's just a distraction there in the room. Hold on. Yeah, it's like Ashmatic said, if we get Manchester City on the first draw, then you can't play the kids. You know, you have to go for a full strength team. But you never know that if we do get through the next round, it might be an easier match. But realistically, there needs to be a plan to, you know, introduce these youth players. There will be a lot more games this season, next season. We know that. And how Ange does it will be good to see how he works out. The concerning thing for me is last year when he did have the opportunity to play some of the youth, as I think Dave was saying, that he chose to play Royale and Ben Davis, which quite might make sense. So moving forward into the season, there needs to be some kind of plan of how are you going to loan some out? You're going to give some a chance, some an opportunity. And going back to Mikey Moore, I mean, he's jumped ahead of some of them, hasn't he? Didn't he have his debut? He played a couple of games, didn't he, last season? He came on. So that's interesting for me. He's kind of jumped some of them like Donnelly, Lancashire, some of the others. So, we'll see.
Yo. Marlon, I don't know where Marlon's gone.
Did you hear any of that?
Yeah, just what I would say to that is just in response to that, I think part of the reason why Moore jumped up is because they knew the interest in him and they wanted to show him a pathway for him to sign on the dotted line. But also, let's not forget the under-21s. We were in a cup final and, you know, the Premier League too as well with the playoffs for that. So that's probably why Mikey Moore jumped up. And the reason why they probably didn't take someone like Donnelly out is because of how crucial he was to that under-21s. And they knew he would fire them to success. So I think there's a bit of that going on in the background as well.
So my question then to you guys is, do we risk it in the cups or do we risk it in the league? Because for me personally, if it was up to me, right, and this is where I'm expecting all our opinions to be different. If I want a trophy, right, I'm one of those that want a trophy. I want a cup final day. I want to experience it, right? So I don't really want to risk it in the cups. For me, if I had a season like Manchester United last year, would I be happy? Personally, I probably would be at the end of the day because I finished with something, right? But if I saw a bit where there was more youth team players being bedded in, right, into these Premier League games, I probably would go, all right then. But that's just me. Where would your priorities lie for next season if it does come down to the more youth team players are coming in? Dave, I'll start with you. Would you more go for the cup games or would you more go for these games?
Do you know what? For me, I think it's going to happen naturally. I think you won't see it until we start suffering injuries. But I do think the Europa League, depending on some of the trips we get, is where you might start seeing that. And like with the Europa League, I think the format is going to be the same as the new Champions League, right? Where they have one sort of league and you get teams. So there are going to be opportunities there where you can give some of these youngsters, I think, without really sacrificing the Europa League. And I think that's naturally where it's going to happen. And then as the season goes on, when you carry injuries, you'll probably see a couple of them on the bench and then get their opportunity in that. So that's the way I think it's going to happen. I don't think the club will be sitting there picking either or. I think once you see injuries is where you'll see these guys gradually and naturally sort of come into the equation. There's no perfect time to give a youngster an opportunity. You suffer a couple of injuries or whatever, you turn to him, you put your faith in him and hope he repays you. If he does, he gets rewarded. If he doesn't, goodbye. That's the way it is, So I don't think you can pick and choose.
Dan, I'll start with you before I finish on Ash.
Well, yeah, for me, it's to win something. It's been so long. That's the priority for me. And would I choose the older players instead of the youth players? Yeah, I would. But that doesn't mean that some of the young players can't get a chance in some of these games. Like if we're a few goals up, we can bring them on later stages of the game. Same with the Europa League in the group stages. There's plenty of games for them to come in and make an impact. So yeah, again, as I said, priority is to win. The same as you, Marlon.
Ash.
Yeah.
Where do you sit with it?
Can you run the question again? Just to refresh the question.
You're not listening. I said so. The question is, what competition do you feel like most of these youngsters should get their chance? Because obviously, I'm looking at it going, I want a cup next year. Why don't we put all our eggs in one basket? Do a Seville, right? We're not going to get anything in the league, right? Let's be honest, we're not going to win the league, right? Fourth, getting Champions League football means more to some people than more to others. Let's try for a cup. I'd rather the youngsters get it in the league, get the experience playing Premier League football, rather than in a cup where it's a bit more risky.
If I had to prioritize one, I would trust the youngsters, as Dan was saying, against some of the lesser opposition in the league. But why not do a mix and mash? I know. If I'm going to answer your question bluntly, straightly, I'd say the league. Yeah. And I do agree with you in the cup competition. The thing is, with the cup competition, it's so hard to win cups these days because even the big teams are trying to go for the lower cups because it's an easy route. Man City are just cleaning up that league. It's so hard. So if you want some type of success, you kind of go for a League Cup, especially if you're a new manager. So, I think obviously Ten Hag got the FA Cup, and the season before that he got the League Cup within his first season, and he got skin in the game. Do you understand? He got a lot of respect out of it. And so, if you're a new Liverpool manager in Slot, if you're a new manager in Chelsea, Maresca, are they gonna try to field out their best team? It's going to be very competitive in those type of games. So. Yeah, you want to kind of field out the best teams in those type of competitions. But overall, you just need a squad that can compete on all fronts. I know we're not there yet, but if the level of youngsters are the level that we think they are, this is meant to be the best Premier League player in the Championship, Premier League, the best Championship player, best young player Championship in the league, then surely the level can't drop that much. Do you know what I mean? Surely,
especially if they're training with the first team. My thing is, if you're training with the first team, I don't expect, and if it shouldn't drop that much because that's the reason why they're training with the first team.
You know what? Like Bergvall, I've got question marks on because Bergvall's different. He was in a completely different country, and we just don't know the level of the Swedish league. Being that it wasn't necessarily the first tier of that Swedish league, I heard it was 2 and 3. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, come on, that's not the levels of where we can say he's going to come in and cook straight away. He's going to need even maybe more than one season to get used to the speed, the power. Yes, he may have some technical prowess, but decision making at a faster level. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be a new world to Bergvall, if I'm being totally honest. So I think Archie Gray should be able to bed in a bit quicker because he's in England at the moment. He's kind of dealt with that type of Championship's no joke. Do you know what I'm saying? Very competitive league, very fast as well. But Bergvall, I'm slowing down on. And even like I said, like you just said, the level shouldn't be that much of a drop off if we're going into play Ipswich Town and Southampton. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Leicester City as our first game. Leicester won't be no joke. It won't be no easy game either. But against Cooper, like, come on, he's not. Cooper's going to be doing long ball. What are we doing there? You know what I'm saying? Like, we should be able to blend one of the youngsters in for a young Leicester game. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know,
guys. There's a bigger question though from following on from this conversation, isn't there? There is a bigger question. It's like, what are we doing? What is the club doing? Are we going for youth?
I think we're going for.
But they're not saying it though, are they? They're not coming out. The board are not saying this is what our plan is. This is what
for me, look, you could say the plan, and I'll be like, I could eat it up. Like, oh, this is the plan. They showed us the plan. But what if they're lying? What if they're lying? We're going for trophies. We're going for minimum top three within the next 5 years. We don't want to drop off like Champions League, but we're going for third minimum, and we're going for trophies. We're going for all titles. We're going to challenge for the title. Blah 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 blah. And fans can eat it up. Where
so silence
if there's no action with it, if that makes sense. If there's nothing, if I can't see it on the pitch and there's no results, but I hear what you're saying because you want to see that, Rod. We're going for young players, but young players that have a certain level. We're not doing up Brighton, but we're kind of following the mode of what Dortmund are doing. Yeah, I'm trying to say we're trying to buy the young players at a certain level, and it doesn't matter what manager comes in. The sporting director in Lange and McKenzie, they're trying to recruit those type of players that could, like, you know, like when Dembele went from Rennes to Dortmund and everyone was like, oh my days, Dembele is amazing. What an amazing dribbler. And then he went to PSG afterwards. Are we doing that type of like recruitment in terms of that's the level of tech?
Well, have they said this though? Has the club actually come out and said
that? But I'm saying, look, I don't need to. I'm saying, look, I'd rather just see the results because, like, what we've done in the past is told people, oh, we're gonna get what's his name? Diaz. We're getting Diaz, yeah. Liverpool come along, swoop, swoop, scoop, scoop. They take Diaz, the whole recruitment, Paratici, and them like, oh, I can't believe it. Like, I would prefer sometimes, like, we just, like, no one Basuma, nobody saw it coming. Boom! Plays inside the Hotspur way. We've got that player, do you know what I'm saying? And then they're ready to cook. I would prefer, like, just we move in silence, because that's what Liverpool do. Liverpool move very quiet. They do blood in the youngsters. They got academy players, but they also buy young players from Europe that have a certain level of quality. Do you know what I'm saying? I won't put the Nunes in that, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like, the players that they bring in, they're like 23, 24, that age, but they've got enough experience to do damage. And I'm hoping Spurs are on a similar trajectory without screaming to the world what we're doing. I'd rather just move in silence, like lasagna, the genes of lasagna. I just hit them like that. So I don't know. Everyone sees it different. People do want to see a plan, so then we can say, look, we know we're going in the right direction. I do hear that, but I'm just like, yeah, just do it, bro. Because
we know Ange has said what he wants. He's made it clear last season. He wants to win the league. He wants to challenge.
Yeah.
But you know, look at the board and what we've done so far. I know it's early. There's lots more time. But it's not looking like we're really going to push on this summer yet. Look, there's still time, and a lot of the work will probably be done once the Euros is finished. But I don't know. I'm just not sure where the club is really going. And, yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it?
It's question marks because we haven't done it at the moment. So right now, the skepticism is very high. Like, it looks like we've been there before. We've done this before. Like, it's typical Tottenham. Do you know what I'm saying? We're just going for the cheaper option, or we're trying to buy young players to sell on future down the line. Man City or Real Madrid will come along and snap up our top talent, blah, blah, blah. Typical Tottenham. Do you know what I mean? But
like, if we're going to win with youth, I'd rather the club come out and say this is announced to say this is what we're doing. We're just going to buy young players, and it's going to take another 4 or 5 years. That's fine. At least we know, but we don't really know, do we? We're in the middle. We're signing young, and we're signing maybe more experienced players. So it's.
I think we do know the plan. I just don't know if people agree with the plan. And I think that's where the problem comes in. When we brought in Paratici, we were told he's going to rejuvenate all the operations behind the scenes, which he's done in terms of scouting department, stuff like that. And we're going after some of the young, hottest, best talent across Europe. We've done that in the likes of Doue, Van der Ven, Radu Dragusin, people like that, Papa Matasar. okay, it's taken its time, but because of how Daniel Levy operates and how tight he is on the budget, it was always going to take that time. But Paratici outlined the plan when they hired him. All people have to do is go back and read it and see what he's done since. That plan is taking place. It's just taken years to happen because of the chopping and changing in directions of managers, but also because of how we operate and the budgets. Look, a lot of people probably don't agree with the plan. You look at the average age of the squad when Paratici walked in here compared to where it is now. It's night and day. It's completely changed. We've gone from an aging squad to one of the youngest squads in European football. And that's the plan. It's just whether people agree with it or not.
It's our expectations, isn't it, as fans? What our expectation, our own expectations.
Yeah.
Everybody's is different. Everybody wants to win now. Cool, we all want to win now. Well, you'll be realistic. It's difficult. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise about in what we hear in social media, YouTube. It's a lot going on and a lot of conflicting views. And I think we just have to see how it plays out. And by the end of the summer, once we know who we've signed, it'll give us a better idea. Neto, the other bloke, what did you say? Doue, is it? We'll start to kind of get a bigger picture of like where the season is going to go. And yeah, a lot of questions, a lot of things to be done.
And speaking of that, let's move on to the guy we have been rumoured this week, all of a sudden out the blue. And a lot of people have taken him and put him in our squad last year, and that is Neto. So, Ash, talk to me about Neto.
Woof! You know what? I was like, you know what, Neto.
Okay, before you say it, right? Before you say it, I'm just gonna quickly just throw up these stats for you in these last 3 seasons, right?
I can bring it up.
Yeah, I'll go on then. You bring it up. Go on.
Talk about it. I'll see if I can bring it.
So everyone's going to always talk about his injury record, right? So last year he had suffered from 2 hamstring injuries, which he ended up missing 19 games, right? Yeah. The year before, he ended up having an ankle injury, and he ended up missing 27 games, and that was for Portugal and Wolves, right? 2021, the year before that, he had a knee injury, right? And he nearly missed the whole season. He ended up missing 52 games overall. Right, so since 2020, his injury record is not the greatest, right? And from the rumors out there, they're looking for about 60 million for him, if the rumors are true, right? And it's a lot to be paying for someone. Then when we've already got James Maddison that misses a quarter of the season already.
Yeah, for me, 60 million is way too much, and. Like we haven't got the best injury record, as you just said. Like with Maddison, even before Maddison, we had a lot of players that were just out that period. You know what I mean? So, like that's like it's like mixing two. Oh, I was gonna say mixing 2 dicks. All right, but I mean, for trying to make a baby, it doesn't really make sense. But we move. Like injuries and Spurs don't go well together. Is what I'm trying to say.
And Ryan's confirmed that being a Wolves fan himself, 60 million for Neto.
Yeah, 60 million plus. I even saw 60 million plus. But I think Ange was in the ITV studios in Germany, and I think what happened was Neto came on and just did a madness. He did the absolute madness. I saw it myself, and I was like, "Whoa!" Neto came on, and Conceição came on as well, and just completely changed that game. I can't remember the game it was. And I think Ange's eyes lit up, and he saw firsthand what he did to us as well at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Neto came and he just ripped us a new one. And I remember watching the Liverpool game when he came and he just damaged Liverpool. He's done it to a few teams: Chelsea, Man U, Arsenal, Newcastle. He's tore a new one. Aston Villa. Like all the top teams, he's come and done the madness. But I think in Newcastle, he beat about 3 or 4 players and then done his hamstring in the same game.
Yep.
So you just run that risk of getting a world beater. Because I look at him, I'm like, right, is he the same level as a?
It was the Turkey game, wasn't it? You're talking about where he came on. Yeah, they won 3-0.
He's almost like, I don't know, like if he had more goals in him, because that's one thing I think he needs to improve on. But like in terms of his assists and his dribbling, I'd say he's near the Kvaratskhelia. I'd say he's near that kind of level because he's the amount of players he can beat is incredible. His strength's incredible, technical prowess, and even like the balls. Like if he was playing for a better team, his assists would be twice as many because.
Are you not concerned, Ash, about his assists and goals? If you look at it in the last 3 seasons at Wolves, they're not great. Barely double figures.
Yeah.
Is there a concern there? Because for me, there is a bit of a concern alongside the injury record.
I've just seen how many balls he's put on the plate for Wolverhampton footballers, and because they don't have the finishing minerals, they've hit like loads of chances straight. And I'm like, brother, like if he was in a proper team, I remember last season before he got his injuries, Liverpool wanted him, Man City wanted him. I remember he even turned us down, saying, "Nah, I'm going to one of the top 4 teams." Do you know what I'm saying? And then obviously he got the injury and then had to humble himself. But
have you seen his chance creations? Then have you looked at his level of chances he creates per game? Have you seen it? Is it up? Does it kind of compare against some of the better wingers in the league? How does it compare?
Yeah, so his chance creation against some of the top players, I've done it across Europe, not even just Premier League, across Europe. In terms of chance creation, he's I think he's definitely top 10 out of like I'm talking about. You name the wingers you want to talk about in terms of chance creation, he's going to be up there. I can't even tell you the names off the top of my head, but when I did a comparison in some of the top wingers across like Barcelona,
that's important. That's important.
He's actually up there, but it's just him staying fit. That's the biggest problem. Do you know what I mean? Take-ons, ball carries. He can play across the front 3, left wing, right wing. Play the false 9 before. Left foot, right foot, doesn't matter. On his weaker foot, he can hit it. He can hit a cross. He can actually cross the ball. So it's not even just balls that he fires across the box or cutbacks. He can actually deliver a lofted ball or a looping ball to a back stick or into the center of the box. So a player like a Richarlison, some people call him Richie, others call him Richard. I don't know what you want to call him, but his goals would go up definitely if he had someone of Neto's level to play in that wing. And I think that's why Ange likes him. He likes someone that's competent and has end product. It's quite simple, and that's what he provides. I think that's why he's a serious consideration for Spurs. Spurs liked him before as well. Before he got the injury, Spurs were liking him. And then, I think, Ange has fallen in love. Ange actually wants him.
I think you also have to take into consideration, I think Ryan said it in the chat there as well, the system that he's playing in. Wolves play defensive football, and they've done for quite some time, and they don't score a lot of goals. That's not just down to Neto. That's down to Wolves not having a prolific goal scorer up front, other people chipping in and stuff like that. I think all that has to be taken into consideration. But for me, when I weigh up the price tag on the injury list, it doesn't match, so I'll be staying well clear.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Like the injury record, the price, 60 million, bit too high for that injury record. Maybe 40, 35, yeah. But Wolves are not going to do that.
I tell you, there's one player I would go for from Wolves, and his name's Gomez.
Okay, someone just brought that up in the chat. Yeah, someone brought it up in the chat. Yeah.
Gomez, for me, when I saw him play at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and I've seen him in other games as well, he's so tenacious in the tackling, and he's not clumsy. Some players, they're like dogged in defending and they're a bit clumsy and a bit labored and they mistime their challenges and he's the opposite. His timing is impeccable. And the amount of energy he brings in the midfield. I remember looking at Wolves, I'm thinking, are you sure we're better than Wolves? Because I feel like Wolves are better than us. But it was to do with him in midfield. They were pressing us so well. I remember it was like Lo Celso, Højbjerg, and maybe Bentancur was in that midfield. Or was it the
Is he a 6? Ash,
he's a
6 or is he 8?
He's a 6. He's a 6. Well,
he's a midfielder.
6
he's hybrid.
But because he's got so much up and down, a bit like you see how Kante is. Kante is a 6, but he's so up and down. He covers so much ground. I don't call him Kante. I'm just saying the amount of pitch coverage he does. He's so busy-bodied. But again, as I said before, ball carrying as well. Ball carrying, excellent. And I was just confused. I was thinking, wait a minute. I swear we've got the bit of midfield. What's going on? How are we getting dominated by Wolves? And I remember they timed it tactically. It was like a midfield press. They waited for us to play through that midfield transition, and that's when he pounced. And he was leading it every time, and he won his challenges. He wasn't giving away free kicks. He wasn't erratic. His timing was spot on. And I just think if we're looking for a player that's going to help us when we lose the ball in those channels, because that's when we're most vulnerable, in those half spaces when we've only got 2 centre backs and the fullbacks invert and the spaces in behind, he's going to be the one that's going to be able to clean up and help those centre backs and drop into a fullback position at times. Or he's so proactive. He's not a reactive kind of midfielder. He's going to intercept balls before they come into that the opponent's possession. Do you know what I mean? Keep the turnover high and win us back. If you look at Wolves' turnover rate, it's pretty high. And so I think Ange has probably looked at, I think the scouting department, because we're looking at data analytics at the moment, if they looked at that very closely, they'll look at Gomez and say, actually, yeah. And the fact that he's Brazilian, they're all about that. In the Brazilian leagues, they're very tenacious, hard-working midfielders. They're that kind of mode. So I would go for Gomez and prioritize that money over maybe an injury-prone Neto.
Sorry, Ash, his performances over the season for Wolves, have they been consistent? To be honest, I don't watch Wolves, week in, week out. Do you know if these
Ryan G, tell us.
Yeah, you can tell us.
For me, he's turned up against the bigger teams. I remember him turn up against Man City, just dominating. I remember that's where they were caught out. I remember the Wolves got a result against them, and I was like, "What happened there?" And obviously, they did the tactics. I think it was a game before us, maybe, and I forget his name. Their manager came into Sky Sports, and he was in the room, and he was just talking about the tactical.
O'Neill.
Oh yeah, O'Neill. He's a great manager, by the way. He did a number of
famous O'Neill tactical performances over us last season.
Even at Bournemouth, remember the home game, they almost done us there. But anyway, I think Gomez was one of the top reasons why he did so well. He was like one of their midfield maestros, and I thought they were going to suffer after they lost one of their midfielders to Man City Wolves. But he stepped up. Him and Lamina was all right as well. But he's obviously a striker, but he's like a false 9 at times, drops into the midfield. But yeah, Gomez just being that number 6/8 hybrid, box to box, this energy. I just thought, yeah.
So you think he might be on our list? We don't know. Could be.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. There's rumors around him. So,
do you think, like, honestly though, right? You say Gomez, but do you really honestly think how many midfielders we have at the moment that we're going to be signing anymore? Because you've got Gray's just come in. You've still got Skip around. You've still got Basuma. You've still got Bentancur. You've got Bergvall now. You've got James Maddison, right? You've still got the Celso on the books, right? You've still got Højbjerg on the books, right? Where another midfielder? Do you really think that's where we're going to be going down that route?
I think the rumor is that if Højbjerg moves, that's what I'm seeing. I'm hearing that we go for another central midfielder. That's the rumor. They want to replace one for another, because at the moment we've got Bergvall. No disrespect to Bergvall or even Archie. They're both not youth players, but they're both players that are young and they will get minutes. But I'm
expecting Archie to play.
I'm expecting him to play. But in terms of is he a Højbjerg replacement? That's a question. What do you guys think? Do you think he's a Højbjerg replacement when we're bringing in Archie Gray?
No.
So that's the reason why I'm saying if Højbjerg goes, there might be a space free for someone like a Gomez, if that makes sense.
But most people have been saying, most fans have been saying, we need a specialist 6 to really make this system work. So surely the club, Ange, knows, the missing link there to kind of someone who can break the play, who control the play, slow the play down. I know we talk about Rodri, players like that. I know we're not going to get anybody that level, but clearly the team needs that type of destroyer. We haven't got one. And then the season will start and we'll have the same issues being caught out, especially against better teams. Am I missing something there? Surely that's a priority position.
Do you know what? For me, I think when many people look at it, I think they do think it's a priority position. I just don't think Spurs. I'm with Marlon. I don't think they're going to go in to the market for another centre midfielder. You know, someone like Ramsey that they've been linked with, they could have got him done under the PSR, chose not to. So, you know, I'm not convinced that we're going to get in for him. I think they're happy with the likes of Papa Matasar, Madison, Bentancur, Basuma, Bergval, Archie Gray, and then I have a sneaky suspicion you might even see Tyrese Hall in that setup, you know, come this season. Look, last year I look at it a bit differently. I know people were saying, look, you know, we don't have that number 6, that destroyer. Well, a lot of our problems came from the forward area. We dominated possession. We sat in the opposition half for most parts of the game, but we didn't do anything with the possession. We couldn't carve them open, and all they had to do was bully either Johnson, Werner, or Son, thank you very much for the ball, and turn it on us. For me, you know, there's not much. Okay, Basuma got caught out a couple of times, but there's not. If you bring in another number 6, there's not much more he's going to be able to do to stop, you know, the way teams hit on us last year. All they've done was one ball. It's not like they got on the ball and played through our midfield. They didn't. They got on the ball, played one ball, and exposed our backline. That's nothing to do with the midfield whatsoever. So I'm with Marlon. I'm just not convinced that they're going to go in for another midfielder.
So then we're going towards the attack again to get, you know, top players in the attacking third, one-on-one specialist, a clinical striker, and that will win us most games. Is that sounds, Dave? That's what you're kind of saying.
Yeah, for me, that's where I'm at. Look, I said it last season. Everyone was happy to sell Harry Kane. I warned people, you're going to look stale in attack. That's exactly what happened. You know, it's exactly what happened. And in order for us to go and win games, signing a number 6 ain't going to do that. You need a proper striker, and you need better wingers, you know, than what we've got. And that's what goes and win you games. That midfield got us into the final third. There's only so much they can do. The forward line is what cost us last season. With the way we set up and the possession we dominated from the back into the opposition third, you're going to get a better forward line. You're going to win more games. And when you use that when you use the possession that you have to your advantage, and you go and score goals, it doesn't allow teams to stay in games like they did at points last season and hit you the way they did. So I think that forward line for me, and I've said this all season long, it's where the money needs to be spent.
I personally think, though, in terms of dictating games, I don't think we were very pedestrian in our possession. So I think certain times when you kind of need to do switches of play or break the lines with forward passes from deep, I don't think a lot of our players had that in their locker. A lot of our midfielders, what we like to do is break lines through ball carrying, dribbling, taking your man on, etc. But we didn't have a different profile in terms of a midfielder that could split a team open with one pass.
Yeah, I agree.
Spread a ball open. And I thought that position in terms of maybe a 6 that can dictate from deep, that's something we were maybe missing. And I thought if Højbjerg was to go, because I think when Højbjerg did come on the pitch, not when he started, but when he came on the pitch, he saw the game very different. And what he did was he opened up the pitch with his passing, first time passing certain times, long to medium passes, and just little diagonals that quickly hit the wings, and that kind of allowed us to do quick turnovers, quick transitions, and then be more effective. And I think if we're going to get rid of Højbjerg, I would say like a player in that ilk where they've got a mixture of both. Someone that's tenacious, that can win the ball high up, but someone that can forward pass and see the game and has vision and pick out players from deep. And I think that's what would hurt teams a little bit more. Rather than like we're in possession and we're doing the horseshoe everyone was complaining about, teams just blocking up the pitch centrally, and then we don't have any answers going forward, because if our midfielders aren't able to break the lines through dribbling, then what are we doing here? Do you know what I'm saying?
So who's going to do that? Bergval? Is he going to do that? Can he do that? We don't know. It's who's that player then? Because what's going to change next season? We're going to restart the season. We're going to be playing that slow again and not breaking the lines. What is going to be a big change next season, guys? What do you think?
So
we're not signing another 6 or another midfielder like that.
No, and I think the biggest issue that a lot of people haven't seen, and where this system falls flat on its face, especially defensively, is that there was a lot of times last season, especially when the two, like when Van der Ven and Romero was suspended, this system always leaves 2 at the back. Now, if you watch Manchester City and you watch Arsenal, and I'm going to use those 2 as prime examples, right? Because they've got Ben. because you've got Ben White at right back, or you've got Ake and Gardeval at left back, right? And what you'll notice is if they push forward, that's where Rice and Rodri come in, right? Which we don't have, right? But if White and Gardeval don't go forward as much, they've always got three, and it's always three centre backs. So it never leaves Saliba and Gabriel exposed. And it never left who the other two? What's his name?
What, Stones?
Diaz. No, Stones didn't play, did he?
Ruben Diaz and
Akanji.
Akanji,
Yeah. And it never left them exposed enough because you saw what Akanji was like for Switzerland. Even though he was good, you don't leave them exposed. And I think that's where the system is falling down for us at the moment, because you have Porro and Udogie that are too far forward. And then, as Dave said, which is spot on, if you don't have the forward line, you have to make a tweak to the system where you have to say, and I kind of agree where this is where the midfielders need to be more intelligent between Basuma and whoever the number 8 is. Because if he wants to be hybrid, one of them needs to know when to press, and one of them then needs to know when to stay. But the problem is, as we said, Højbjerg was the only one who could move the ball quick enough. Bentancur probably could do it, but he's coming back from a major injury, so it just left us all the time with two. And this is why Vicario is making save after save after save in the end, because he's being asked to do so much more. So if Ange doesn't get that hybrid number 6, for me, he has to change the way we are defensively to make sure we're not left with just that. We can't have Van der Ven being left with 1-1 all the time. And that's why we conceded 60 odd goals last year. 40 of them was with Van der Ven and Romero.
100%.
And I completely agree with you. That is one thing where Ange Postecoglou needs to change it. But on the other side, Porro was one of our most creative players last year. If Brennan Johnson came in and done what he was supposed to do, or Kulu chipped in, Porro, Ange Postecoglou wouldn't have to instruct Porro to get so high up the field. Same on the left-hand side. He wouldn't have to instruct Destiny Udogie to get so high up the field if wingers start producing. If he had better players in the forward area, he can instruct one of them to sit in and make that tree, and it changes the defensive system of it altogether. And to Ash's point about the midfielders trying to feed the lines, I completely get your point. They have to have players they can feed the lines too. When you're playing Son up front, they have no one there that they can feed because he's being outnumbered by 3 6'4" centre-backs. When you're getting the ball out to Brennan Johnson, what good is it? He's not making runs in behind. He wants the ball to feet, and he can't even cross a ball. Same to Timo Werner. You have to have the players in the front line that are intelligent, that know how to make runs off the ball, that almost make the midfielder make that pass. The midfielder can't make a pass on a run that's not there or to a player that doesn't want it. Like, for instance, when we had Kane and Son, Son's runs forced Kane to play that ball over the top because when he did, he was in. So that's why I keep saying we need better forward players. It would change the system.
So when we look back at the games last season, and there weren't that many great games or really good performances, you can think of Newcastle. So why did it go so well that day, or was that mainly due to Newcastle's injuries? If anyone can remember what worked that day, because they were really good that day. I thought.
They were tight.
Newcastle, I'd mentioned this because I remember I was doing We Are Tottenham TV that day. And I mentioned to one of the guests, and one of the guys come on and said, do you think we played like that because of their injuries, or do you believe it was down to we were just really good that day? Right. And at the time, it was like, no, it was down to us. But then if you go and look at the game at St. James's Park, right, slightly different team. They were less tired, but yet they done us. Right. So I think it's
the Villa game. What about the Villa game then? Is that maybe a bit more of a better?
Because we played really well. But again, we were starting off. Because even West Ham, when that period, West Ham and Villa game, I thought the first half an hour in both those games was probably one of the best performances I saw this season from Spurs. Right, on the ball, and everything like that. It just happened to be that we're playing against two sides that's sharp shop, right? Said 2 banks of 4. Right, and I think Villa made a tweak at half time because they were literally getting torn to pieces, and we just got caught. But again, it goes back to what Dave said: we wasn't keeping the ball well enough up front, and then going back to what I said, we kept leaving the two exposed. And I think Udogie was making mistakes around that time as well, where he was trying to pass it back, and it would be 2. But again, we didn't have Van der Ven then. We didn't have. I don't think we had Romero for 1, but not the other one. you're just leaving yourself open. And I think that's what the problem is. Until Ange tweaks it, because look, at the end of the day, this is where I think Ange needs to learn. Premier League's completely different to other leagues he's been in, right? Managers are a bit more smarter in these leagues, right? Especially in the Premier League. Pep had to learn it. Klopp had to learn it, right? Teams will set up in certain ways against you, right? If they know it's going to work, right? They know you're going to play a certain way. So this is where Ange needs to make tweaks in certain games and his in-game management to go. Because I take the Villa game. The Villa game is the best example of how we completely destroyed them in the first half. Emery went, you know what? This is not working. I can't remember who he took off. He made a little tweak in midfield and they completely exposed us for the rest of the season. And every manager then... Every manager after that did exactly what Emery did. And it worked again with some. But Eddie Howe was the only person who came to us during that time and tried to play exactly the same way. And that's why we were so good against Newcastle. And I think Everton tried it, but they just couldn't last. And that's why we ended up picking them off. And that's what's going to happen. It depends on how the team is set up and whether they can do it, whether we're going to have performances like that. But if every team sets up like how David Moyes sets up, we're screwed.
And we've seen that towards, for large parts of last season, outside of the big six, every team's going to come back and sit bodies behind us. And we just don't have the creativity within the forward options to be able to break them down. And until you can find them solutions, teams are going to rinse and repeat it.
Do you think, Dave, that we got enough of those attacking options in the midfield, though?
Look, I like Maddison. I think he's a good player, but even when we signed him, I had question marks about his consistency. But to give Maddison maybe an excuse, he's a creative player. He needs runs off the ball. He needs players to feed. There wasn't really much of that happening. Where I think Maddison could have helped himself is a bit what Ashmatic was saying, what we need in the six, where he's got the passing range. He could pick up the ball, and instead of passing it on to Basuma and getting him to pass it out wide to Johnson, he could just skip Basuma and put it out onto Johnson's toes. Just do things a little bit quicker. I would love someone like an Eze to come in here who could play through the middle, can play on either of the wings. He solves a lot of problems for me. He's direct. He takes players on. He takes players out the game, and what that does, it creates space. It creates space for other people. If you draw people into you, other players are free. So for me, I just think we need some more productivity off the right hand side. I don't think Johnson or Werner's the answer on either wing. I'd like to see a bit more strength in depth there. And I think we need another option to Richarlison. I like Richarlison, contrary to what most people think. And I think when he played last season, he actually played pretty well. The problem is he's too injury prone. You can't rely on the guy over the course of a whole season. And when you put Son up there, I love Son. But, me and Ashmatic had many debates about this last season. I was adamant Son's not a striker. And there was a large period there. There was Luton, Newcastle, and a couple of other games. As soon as the ball went into him up front, they target him, take the ball off him, turned it on us, and got a couple of goals out of it. So for me, I think you get better forward players. I think you just absolutely kill teams off. And I think that's where the money needs to be spent. If that's a cam, whether that's a winger, that's a striker. For me, you sign that. That's the improvement between where we are now and the other five ahead of us, or the other four ahead of us.
So that brings me on. That actually quite goes on to our next point. So Desiree Doue, apparently it was rumoured at the weekend, we're trying to get a deal done for him and spoken to him by this week, right? So Ash, my question is to you, right? Because it's Spurs. Obviously, it won't be done this week. Will he be the first one to walk through the door? And if he does, will that end the Eze rumours as well?
It's a hard question. We've been strongly linked with him, but we're not the only club looking at him.
Barcelona have as well, haven't they? Apparently he's on there.
Yes, PSG
are the other one.
Apparently front runners. Obviously, they've lost Mbappe.
Yeah,
so they're looking for a new protege out in that position, and he fits the mold. So he's been strongly linked to them, and also Bayern Munich as well. Bayern Munich have been linked with him.
Can I ask a question on this, right? And I want to bring Dave on this, right? And actually, I'm going to quote Sean in this, right? Because the reason why is because Sean from Spurs Talk Show, right? And he brought this up himself the other day. He was the one who kept telling us, Europe is broke, He always told us Europe's broke. This is why we can't get rid of players. But all of a sudden, Bayern Munich are spending £100 million on Kane. They've just signed a lease, right? The other European clubs seem to be all doing business with each other. So what is it about Spurs then? Why we can't get rid of our players to Europe? And let's be honest. Reguilon should be easy to get rid of. Brian Hill should be easy to get rid of.
No one's interested in Reguilon.
Yeah?
No one wants him.
Lo Celso is another guy, but no one. And let's Jed Spence with Genoa. Genoa didn't want to pay the money, but yet we've just given them 20 odd million for Dragic. What is going on?
Marlon.
Yeah.
It's not the big clubs that are after some of the players we're trying to sell. It is the smaller clubs that are broke. Genoa do have financial problems, so trying to sell a player to them for 10 million, it's just not there. They already signed the player, but before they ended up signing Jed Spence for, I think, like 7 million or something. So the ability of the players that we've got to sell, they're not going to the likes of a Bayern Munich and teams like that, where the money is traditionally.
But Højbjerg's a prime example where Juve were completely interested in him, but they've just gone and signed Luiz for way more money than Højbjerg would have been. So where all of a sudden, why are we having issues? And other clubs around us seem to be, like Villa managed to get rid of Douglas Luiz in minutes. What's going on? Go on.
Well, look, when you look at Douglas Luiz, he was a massive part of what Villa done last season, and he's one of their better players. We're selling players like Lo Celso. Who's going to want to pay for him? How many chances have been given at Tottenham Hotspur? How many loan moves has he had? He's injury prone. And this is the problem. And with Spurs, they're not willing to take a cut price fee. They have their fee, and that's it. They're not willing to go a couple of million below or do what it takes to get these players off the books.
Ash?
Yeah, so, why the Europe are broke? The broke question.
Yeah, broke question first, and then you can go into Eze and Doue. It's only because when I saw Dave, I thought he's the best he can speak. And he brought it up himself. That's what I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, I think you might have a point. I think the bigger teams are the bigger teams. They're not quite as affected by the financial hit because they've got the revenues. Like Bayern Munich globally, they're a massive club in China. Bayern Munich, they sell shirts. Do you know what I mean? Go to America. They've got power. Do you understand? So their financial situation and their setup. Remember, they won their league 11 times in a row until Xavi Alonso came along. So that kind of money that's coming into them, they're a different animal. So we need to look at them. And PSG, obviously, they've got that Jordan connection and that Arab money as well. Exactly. So we're talking about different animals here, but. It's not just those clubs that are interested. Manchester United are heavily linked with. I call him Desire. I want to call him Desire because I heard this on another chat as well. What if we have Desire and Destiny on one wing? Hey, for me, that's enough. That's all I need to hear. Desire and Destiny.
And the nightclub of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, yeah? And the nightclub of Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. What's wrong with you?
Hey, it's good enough for me. No, I'm joking. But yeah, now on all serious notes, Manchester United are seriously heavily linked with Doue. I can't remember another club. There's other Premiership clubs that are seriously looking at him. So we're not the only club looking at him. But we do have a good relationship with Rennes because we did loan up a few players out there to Rennes. One being the player we recently just sold to Leeds. That's just the centre back. Welsh one. Anyone know his name? No? Rodon. Yeah, Rodon. He was at Rennes. And also a DJ, a certain Jed Spence was there as well. So we've got good relations there. Apparently his family are really big in terms of where he wants to go. So the family needs to be taken into consideration. As do any transfer, you need to talk to the main movers. And so if we're to be successful still, yeah, mum.
Get
that Jordan film, right, on Amazon. Anyway,
yeah, I watched John Terry, mate, and it was his mum that got him moved to Chelsea. His dad was fuming.
The mums don't play, The mums don't play. But listen, even Mbappe's mum. But anyway, I digress. Basically, it's not gonna be easy to get Doue. Doue is meant to be that wonder kid. Like he's meant to be the next guy. So if Spurs were to get him, it's a massive coup. Don't get it twisted. I know a lot of Spurs fans are skeptical because it doesn't help that we just spent money on the Bergval from last season, and our first signing after Werner is an Archie Gray, another 18-year-old. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Then all of a sudden, Doue, 19-year-old. Is he proven? He's just had one breakout season. He didn't even start every game. He only started 17 games. So when you're looking at that, you're like, wow, is he really? You look at his GA, everyone looks at goals and assists. That everyone's been a stat pad. 4 goals and 4 assists. What's that? That's nothing. Do you know what I mean? We're trying to be serious upgrade in that particular front line. Like Dave was saying, we need players that can improve on the Johnson and Werner. That was terrible last season in terms of like, you know, what we were producing in that front line. And losing Kane was horrific. So if you're going to bring another player like that's 18 and he's unproved, it's a massive risk, just like Neto's injury record. But
Ash, it's okay to bring him in as long as you bring in another top player as well. You know?
But yeah,
It's fine to bring him in, but you need the top.
I think what it is, Spurs are like, we don't want to miss out on the next big thing. We don't want to, because we're not Madrid, we're not Juventus, we're not Bayern Munich, where we can go out and buy those ready now players that are top tier and say, look, come to Spurs, you're going to win something when we haven't won anything in 16 years. It's going to be hard to sell that dream. So we've got to kind of do it a little bit different. We got to use our brains.
Take a risk.
And kind of like, until we get there, until we start winning trophies and start winning things like, and then we are the animal, we're going to have to sell a different type of project, in my opinion. And I think that's the reason why we are going for the Archie Grays, the Doues, building up these young guys that have like massive potential. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So like in the ideal world, you just go and get Eze. You just put the money down, you get the Eze, and then you go and get the next player that we think is going to be topping that. Like, I don't know. I like Rafinha. Not everyone likes him, but I'm saying Olmo. Like, let's get Olmo, Eze, Rafinha, and a top striker that everybody.
What's the other bloke you were talking about last week? Openda. He looks tasty, doesn't he?
Yeah, let's put money or Openda or Guy Correct. Everyone likes Guy Correct, or do you know what I mean? Whatever centre forwards, everyone's like, he's a gunman, he's a finisher. He finishes this dinner. Let's get him. Do you know what I'm saying? Let's just get Tony, Eze, Neto, done. It's all over. But with Spurs, it's like we have to shop smart and diligently, and players only come to us when like Neto, for example, has got an injury record. That's how we're able to shop for him, because no one else. We're not going to be outbidded, because Spurs don't do this bidding war thing. Do you know what I'm saying? We don't want to get embarrassed and get our pants pulled down like we did, as I said earlier in the show, with like a Diaz. Yeah, we had Diaz in the palm of our hands. We had Willian in the palm of our hands, and all of a sudden, you know, it all goes to shit, and then all the fan base just goes crazy. Oh, I can't believe it! Blah blah blah. Leaving. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So I'm just trying to think smart. I'm thinking raw. Is this our level? Do you know what I mean? Is this the level of player we can attract, that we can get? And even if we can get them, as I said before, Man United are in for them. You know what I'm saying? Bayern Munich, PSG. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a bag of other like clubs after them. So if we do manage to get this one over the line, it's still like, don't put your nose up because he's 19. It's still a decent acquisition, in my opinion. I think with him, looking at him, I don't know if we get him and Eze. I'll be honest with you, and that's why I was slowing down on Eze. Eze is the one I want. It's the one we need. He's got the triple free, the big three for me. Is shooting, passing, and dribbling. He's got it all. He's got it all, guys. He's got it all. That's what Eze's got. But it's like, can we get Eze through the door and Doue? I don't know, because that will be supplement experience.
Sorry, Ash. The club is rich. They can.
No, listen, no money's not the problem. I'm not saying
it's a joke, isn't it? It's a joke. Why don't they push the boat out?
Listen,
and go for the players ready-made, not world class, level below. That position. Why don't they just do it? Take the risk.
I hear you, my brother. Respectfully,
every season is Arsenal.
If Arsenal come in for Eze, what are we doing here? If Man City come to, what are we doing here? Do you know what I'm saying? If Eze decides to stay at Palace, what can we do? Do you know what I'm saying? We do have the money. I believe that, well, we believe it when we see it. We could potentially put the money down for Eze. But I'm just saying, I'm just, I hear the frustration because I'm there with you. Just pay the fucking money. What's wrong with you? Just pay the money. But, brother, if Man City come for Eze, I'm being realistic, bro.
He's going to go there.
Yeah, and you know what? I think with the Eze situation, everyone's looked at it, right? All the teams have looked at it right now and gone, all right, we know Spurs are the main players, and it's going to be another Diaz situation. We're the best negotiators. They know that we're not going to pay top dollar for any of the players. And they're going to say, because if you look at the Diaz situation, Liverpool were getting quoted 80, 90 million. Spurs got it down to 40. So they went, all right, we'll match that. And I think the same thing's happening with Eze, because Manchester City today have literally come out the race. They've literally said, it looks like we've got a free here as an Arsenal kind of shopping around. I think everyone's waiting to see what we can do about this fee up front. And I think that's what the stumbling block is.
I want to move in silence.
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
The stumbling block is this fee that's being paid.
Because it's Hotspur way. Romano doing emoji eyes. Yeah, I'm trying to say. Boom, boom. Done deal. Brother, telling the world after this player, after this player. You're just going to get your heart broken. What are we doing here?
Yeah, but you got to remember, like, we've done the same thing to Brentford. Like, Brentford negotiated the fee for Gray, and then next thing you know, he was there doing his medical and everything, and we've literally matched it and everything on the Sunday. So he literally got the phone call the next day to come join us. And I think
every
a lot of
player we're linked to, they're this price, and we're coming in there. That's all I'm seeing. We're not matching their asking price. Everything I see. So that may be not true, as you said, Ash. They might be moving in silence, and it's a, distraction.
I wish we were moving in silence. That's what I'm saying, but it doesn't.
You don't think we are?
I don't think we're moving too much in silence. Like, I don't know, man. Like that. I wish that Eze. I wish there didn't exist a rumor. I wish we just kept quiet.
Yeah, the Eze ones.
Did our work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We just did our work, and then you know what? Before you know it, we're in advanced talks with Eze. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then other teams are trying to clock on, and then it's too late. Like, the players confirmed and the club's confirmed, and like, that's what I prefer. But well, it is what it is, man. Like, I hear your point though, because I'm like that as well. Like, I just want them to pay the money. Just pay the money, bro. Like, what's the problem? Just get it done.
Let's do it. One summer, go for it. 4 or 5 top players in, and let it go. With
Eze, I'm like that, but with some of the others, I am kind of like, you do have to negotiate sometimes, because like with Dragusin, we couldn't have been paying what exactly they quoted at first, and what we got it down to. Sometimes you do have to literally negotiate. Even Van der Ven was quoted way much more than what we got him for. So you do have to go through that negotiation stage, I do believe. But when it comes to something like where Eze, where he's completely there's no negotiating on this. The only negotiation right now is how much we pay Crystal Palace up front, right? And in this situation, we all know what Eze is going to bring. It's not like it's, he's gone away with England, and even that, it's still the same level when he's gone away and played for England. So when it comes to someone like that, when it comes to something like that, I am literally like, you know what, with Eze, you've taken where we are now is with this team, I would go pay that. But with everyone else, I do agree that you shouldn't be going in and paying exactly what they're asking for, because some players are not worth it. Like, we've seen some of the players that we've bought and it hasn't worked out. Not mostly down to the players, it's down to the way the clubs run half the time, I'll put it down to. But you can't always pay exactly what they're asking for. And I do believe you do have to negotiate, but I do believe there is a thin line between both. There's a happy medium, and I think that's where Spurs mess up most of the time.
Don't go in too low. They always go in too low.
Yeah, and then someone else will come in and do the dirty on us. But like, look how long Jed Spence took. It should never have taken that long. It's just like, what are you doing?
That got dragged out the whole month. I was fuming. The whole January. Oh, brother.
And plus, the way we negotiate, we know the fee or the value. We'll go in about 30 million underneath that and try and make the rest up in impossible clauses that the player's never going to meet. But then all you've done is pissed off the selling club. They're going to stick their fork in the ground and say, we ain't budging, And this is where, when it comes to Eze, there's probably an instruction from Eze's camp. I don't want any transfer talk. I don't want to know anything about transfers until the Euros finished. I want to concentrate on the Euros. But as soon as that's done, Spurs have to move quick, and they have to move efficiently. Can't be pissing about,
Come on, that's them. I'm joking.
They have to come in and throw as much as they can at Eze up front and try and get this deal over the line, because it looks like our whole transfer window has been on hold. and they're hinging everything on bringing in Eze. So let's wait and see what happens. I just hope the club moves smart and efficient and fast on this. Will they? Probably not. Let's wait and see.
Yeah, we've
So,
got that
guys, call it out. Are we getting Eze or not? What's everybody's hunch? Come on.
I'm
love that question. Hey,
I'm going to put myself out there.
Yeah,
I'm going to put myself out there.
He just
I'm
said,
going to put myself out there.
Yeah,
I think we'll get him. I think we'll get him. I'm going to put myself out there. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't. It's like one of them. I believe the club will get him, and then a lot of the fan base, especially, I'm disappointed the way the summer's going so far. Archie Gray's not my biggest disappointment. They started with Werner. There's my biggest disappointment, right? They've got a lot to live up to now with that signing. But where I go with this is, I think they'll get Eze, and I think they'll get a striker, and I think that will be it. I don't think there'll be any more major than those two. Who that striker is, I don't know, but I think Eze will be a priority. And I think there's...
Sorry to cut you. Do you profile Eze as a wing forward, an inverted winger?
So what I was about to say was, this is where I think what will eventually happen is Eze will be an attacking mid and will play behind the forward, because that's where that is his better position. I know he's been playing there for Palace under Glasner. He's been playing off that left, but he's been more central, right? And when we played Palace, I remember, because again, I was in the studio that day, and I remember saying he's not actually playing left. He's playing very central, and it was, I think it was Tyrick Mitchell was down that wing. He was always down that wing.
From out to in, and then he might collapse.
Where your doggy is not doing that. Your doggy's going to be more central, right? So I think Eze will be like Phil Foden at the moment. He's not out on the left. So I think, but where I think what will happen is James Maddison might move out to the left instead.
Left wing.
Yeah. Because he did play a couple of times there for Leicester, and I think that will be because he likes to drift out there anyway, right? So if you watch his play, he likes to drift out there, and I won't be surprised if that's what eventually happens, that Maddison will go on the left and they'll just play Son up top. That's what eventually, and I think in certain matches, that will be the front three with Johnson on the right.
Dave's gonna lose it, man. Irish is gonna lose it, bro.
I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know if Maddison will go out on the left, because you got Sonny there. I'm hoping that.
I think they'll move Sonny back in central. That's what I think will eventually happen. I know I've literally just come out and said I think we'll sign a striker, but there's going to be times that I think that they will move when things are not going right, and he wants to be he'll be hybrid, as we said earlier. He'll move Eze in the middle, he'll move Maddison out left, he'll move Son up front. He might move him on the right, bring Johnson in the middle, and I think that's what he'll end up doing a whole rotation.
Does it make sense then? Like, if you've got, for you, Dave, does it make sense that you've got Son on the left, Maddison that's on the left, and now you're bringing Eze that's on the left, and then there's no striker? Does it make sense to you, or are you just thinking Richie's going to start? How do you see it? Because I know you said you want a striker, and that solves a lot of our problems.
Look, I really want a striker. I think that solves a lot of our problems. I wouldn't be averse to putting Sonny on the right-hand side either. He's right-footed. I think he could play there. That frees Eze to go up out on the left, or Maddison out on the left, if that's what people want. I just don't want to see Werner and Johnson anymore. They're absolutely useless. They can't cross the ball between the two of them. I'm sick of them. So for me, look, we badly need a striker. Richarlison ain't going to carry you over the course of a whole season. Look, he done well when he played last season. He scored probably more goals than what many people thought he would at the start of the season. But at the end of the day, he's too injury prone, and we need someone else in there. I think it solves a lot of problem. I also think with Kulu, he kept on wanting to cut in, put them crosses in the box. Years gone by, Harry Kane was there for him to do that. Last year, there wasn't that option for him, which sort of rendered his game a little, or made him irrelevant, because he's not a guy that's left-footed that's going to beat his man on the right side, on the outside. So he's constantly having to cut back inside. But if he's cutting inside, you need that presence in the box, that striker to be able to aim at. So I think you'd actually solve a lot of Kulu's problems and end product off that side if you brought in a striker, and it'd probably balance itself out.
Yeah.
Guys, I'd like to come in here. I'd like to come in here at this point, because if you look at the goals we scored last season, it was more than the season before without Harry Kane. Yeah, I know a lot of the defenders inputted, but can you imagine this? Yeah, we bring in a finisher We bring in a one-on-one specialist on the left, right, whatever. What can we achieve next season? I mean, the goals are going to go up so much. And for me, it's essential that we buy those two positions. If we don't, I'm worried. Well, I think we're in a bit of trouble and we're going to see a bit of rinse and repeat from last year.
The thing is, Dan, if you don't sign in that forward area, it doesn't matter who you sign behind that, you're still going to get the same results. Goals is what wins you games. Goals is the hardest thing to do in football, to say, putting the ball in the back of the net, creating the chances. Unless you improve that, you know, it could get even worse, because you're looking at likes of Man United. Look at some of the players that they've been linked with in the big push on some of the signings they're trying to bring in. They'll probably be better. Will Chelsea be any better under Maresca? You just don't know. So there's teams chasing on us as well. So for me, if you don't improve that forward line, forget about what you sign behind it. It won't make a difference.
Yeah, it's it's essential. It has to happen, and I think it will. Who then players are, we'll have to wait and see.
For me, I think the right wing is more important, because you've got Kulu and Johnson out there at the moment, both who are not providing that much on that side. Do you know what I'm saying? So much so that we had to move Kulu central. That's how bad it wasn't working. And then we just had Johnson there, to be fair. And even then, Johnson was on the bench some of the times, coming on as a super sub. So that right wing for me needs to be fixed. That's awful. And then I agree, the striker role, whoever's in that number 9, they need to be able to hold on to the ball. When that ball comes in, they need to be able to have that physicality, that it sticks to them, and then they can either thread the ball to the left wing or the right wing, and they can get on the end of things. The amount of times the ball was fizzed across the 6-yard box and no one was on the end of it. No one was on the back.
Who does that sound like, Ash? Who does that sound like?
Oh,
Tony.
I don't want to look. I'm not looking. Yeah, I'm trying to say. So that with Tony, obviously people say, oh, we haven't got wingers that can cross the ball. That's the only problem. Because if you've got Tony, he thrives on long balls to cross into the box. But if you ain't got the wingers to cross it, then what's the point of a Tony? Do you know what I'm trying to say? So that's the other conundrum you got. But for me, a right winger with someone like a Tony, add a Eze in. I don't want to talk too much, because
and then it's gonna
But yeah, right now I don't know, man. I think I agree with Marlon. I think Eze might be the marquee. I think Spurs do at least one marquee, whether it's Eze or not, I don't know. But we do at least one marquee where the fans get excited.
Madison.
And the rest, it's like that. The fan base will be split. Some will be like, "Oh, great signing." Some will be like, "No." And I think that's how it goes, bro. And it depends on the outgoings as well. It depends on Emerson Royale going out, Brian Hill going out, is Solomon staying? Because some people are saying, "Oh, Solomon looks like he's going to be cooking again, so maybe we keep him, and we don't need another winger." What are we doing here? But I'm just saying, that's what I think some of the fans will say. I think that's what they will look. Preseason will happen. We wouldn't have signed a winger by now. And then all of a sudden, Solomon gets a chance. He takes a man on. I was like, oh, hang on a second. Wait.
This is what we saw against Burnley.
Our forward line is so bad, isn't it? It's so bad, our forward line. It's like, if you really look at it, I saw a list on Twitter the other day of them. And I looked at it and I just thought, gee, I don't know. That's not going to do it. It's not. No way. We've got to improve it.
Yeah. Well, Dan, I don't want to give you nightmares, but I fear Tottenham ain't going to sign a striker. I just don't think they will.
Why?
I just think they look at it. I think they've got Richarlison. I think they'll look to shoehorn Son, which is a problem. We keep repurposing players. You know, Kulu off the right-hand side, he scored 2 there at the end of the season against Sheffield United. And against Luton, he was moved up there when we reduced to 10 men. And he was bloody sensational at holding up the ball and getting us up the pitch as a lone guy. And you've got Parrott back there this summer, who I think they're going to give a chance pre-season. That's what a lot of the talk is in the press. Valise and Dane Scarlett. Yeah. So I'm just not convinced until they sort out the clog up there that's currently there. I'm just not convinced they're going to sign a striker. As badly as I think we need one, I'm just not convinced. We know Tottenham, when you need something, they'll go and sign the opposite. Like when we had Conte, we had a world-class forward line and a shit defence. You know, now we brought in Ange Postecoglou, an attacking manager. We've got a great, I would argue, I think we've got a good defence. I think there's some tactical tweaks that need to be made, but we've got a shit forward line. We just don't do things the way it's supposed to be done.
Wait. So
Right.
what is the marquee then? What do we need more? The centre forward or the 6? What's more priority in people's opinions? Or is it the winger? Who's the, like, if you had one choice, who would it be? A 6 to help us defensively clean up, or would it be a striker?
Striker. I think defensively, I think going back to what Marlon said earlier on, you can instruct one. If you've got better forward players, you don't need a Doue and Porro to push up as high, you know, especially Porro, because he's one of our most creative players. He's doing the job of the forward line. You can get one of them to sit in and make a tree. You know, there could be tactical variations that you can tweak to be able to sort that out. But you're not going to sort out the goals issue unless you bring in better quality players. So for me, it has to be striker first and foremost.
Yeah, I agree. Striker first. But again, I don't like that question. I don't like it. Honestly. One, you need both. It has to be both. If it's not, then
in an ideal world.
Yeah, no, I feel well, man.
I don't like that one. No, that's not that one.
I think a number 6 doesn't solve our problems unless Ange tweaks it. So I'd prefer to go for a number 9 where we could just outscore.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Entertaining. I say a striker as well. I just think there was a problem in that hold-up play. I think we were awful.
Well, because I said this is why he played Kulu, because Kulu, like, and this
Kulu's
Kulu got most.
He's got touch on him,
and he holds the play. It wasn't about. I know we all got frustrated with him because of him going forward. But actually, when you looked at it, it was his hold-up play. He was the only one out of that front 3 that was holding up the ball, and then everyone else would come into play, and that's when it would all come. And that's why Ange gave him the most minutes at one point. It was only towards that bad period where he dropped him, and then he put him up front. Last game of the season, and it kind of worked against a championship side.
yeah.
But on that note, because I feel like we've taken too much of Dave's time.
Yeah.
Don't worry about me, boys.
As always, Dave, Irish Hotspur, thank you for coming on tonight. I know you've been a busy boy this evening. And hopefully we can now just let you go and get some sleep. But everyone, please make sure, if you're not already, go over to the Irish Hotspur, subscribe, and obviously can't wait for the predictions. We better be doing them again, Dave. They better be coming back up. We want to lead
this time.
Yeah, we want to lead table, because I think I got most of them right in the end. I think I would have been top.
Yeah, you would have smashed it. It would have been between you and Leader Dorset.
We both were quite opposite on our views, but when he predicted a win, he got most of them right. When I predicted a loss, I think I got the majority of them correct.
Yeah. I used to dread when you predicted a loss. I was like, I know what's going to happen.
That's coming true.
Yeah, worst nightmare.
Dan, can I say a massive thank you for making your debut tonight? Thank you for coming on and reaching out to me to come on and everything like that. You've been absolutely great, and you will be coming on again. We'll reach out to you to come on again.
Right.
Obviously,
I'm sorry about the start. That's a bad one.
You finished strong, bro.
Finish strong.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, guys.
But let everyone know where they can find you on X, on Insta, on YouTube. I know you're starting your new channel as well, so let everybody know.
Yeah, it's coming, the YouTube channel at the Spurs Analysis.
Great.
I'll be putting some content out there soon. But do you know what, guys? It's not that easy, talking into a camera in your own. I've tried it, and oh my God, I thought, do I really have to look at my ugly mug? How do you guys do it? Do you look at something else? What do you do? You focus on something else in the room?
Ask the expert above me. He knows how to do it.
How do you do it? You look away? What?
Me, honestly, my pre-records, there's about a StreamYard of about 50 things before that where I screw up. It's so hard.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure I'll get into the swing of it. Practice.
Ash, actually, before you go, Ash, also thank you to everyone in the chat. Anyone who's new, please make sure you like and subscribe as well. But the chat, you've been brilliant tonight. I'm so sorry that haven't been able to get all of your comments up, but I can see it's been respectful and it's been good, and it's been a good chat about what we spoke about tonight. Ash. Oh, and actually, next week's show, we are doing a striker special. It's going to be about nothing but number 9s next week. So hopefully we don't sign one. So, and Ash is going to get everybody. We're going to have a load of video clips for next week. It's just because the rumors this week have been a bit slow. But Ash, yeah, you let the guys know what's happening tomorrow. And I've put it after the England game. So you'll go after the England game tomorrow, I take it.
Yeah, yeah. So it all depend on if if England win in 90 minutes or lose in 90 minutes. If it's penalties, whatnot. But yeah, we'll be on straight on after rivals. Just going through basically the Premier League news, including us. We are heavily featured.
It might be Southgate sacking.
But yeah, we're going to look into that and other rival teams, that their transfer news as well, and kind of get into it. But yeah, a good football show we'll be having. But guys, big up for today. Please make sure you do your due diligence and you like and you share and you subscribe as well. Put your notification bell on as well, just in case we pop up every now and then. But again, thank you very much. If it's your first time viewing as well, we do appreciate you. Please come back. Please subscribe. And the more you do, the more we get seen as well. I think that's what it is for us, really. We just want to be shared out to the community a bit more and spread the football knowledge, you know. But yeah, man, big up you, man. Every man on the panel. Hold tight the chat. Big up the chat, as Marlon said. And yeah, love for the love, man. That's what I got to say, man. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And yeah, man. Come on, you Spurs.